But don't bump, man. I just every single time I feel like I could listen to the whole like 2 minutes and 40 seconds of the track and just let everyone vibe out at the beginning. You know what I mean? But for the sake of not having everyone just sit here and listen to music with me, what's up, everybody? Ricky Rains, host of the Bow Body Show, here with my co-host Alex Bryant. Alex, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. I'm in a new spot. This is my living room because my baby is now sleeping in her crib.
Yeah, that's
and-
awesome, man. And what a
yeah.
smart move, too, to not record while your baby's in the crib behind you.
I mean, it's kind of cool because, that crib has just been doing a lot of nothing. And I put it together, I don't know, like 7-8 months ago. So it's kind of cool to see that it's getting some use.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're like, man, look, all that work that I did where there was this hustle and bustle about having the crib ready. Like, who knew I had half a year before it would ever actually get touched?
I did. I knew I had half a year.
Yeah, always, man. But you can't say that. You know what I mean?
Dude, it's like a Saturday at 2:00. It's like, hey, we gotta get the crib built. It's like, but you're 6 months pregnant, and even if you had a baby today, she's not gonna say. It was just so funny.
Right. Well, so look, man, we've got a really fun show tonight. We're gonna get into a mock draft. No, I'm fucking kidding, man. I'm totally kidding. We're not going to do another mock draft. I appreciate every single person that watched the 4 or 5 mock drafts that we did. Luckily, that portion of the offseason is over. And the reason that portion is over is because the NFL draft actually happened. And we have actual draft picks that the Carolina Panthers have added to the roster. So tonight, I think that we're just going to get straight into it, man. We're going to keep it really straightforward. Let's just talk about who the Carolina Panthers brought onto the team. This is, I mean, when you really look at it, man, this is a pivotal draft. This is the first draft class for Dan Morgan as GM. It is the first draft class with Dave Canales as head coach, giving his input and his opinion on how he wants to run his offense. So really, when I look at the dynamics behind this one, we know that Evero is still here on staff. But when you really look at the dynamics here, man, there has been an emphasis on offense all offseason and free agency, bringing in the guards. They talk about wanting to run the football. They have given hints. They've dropped little Easter eggs, right, all over the offseason about what they intended on doing with this NFL draft. Let's talk and find out, were they just blowing smoke, or did they pretty much do what they insinuated they were going to do? I want to start out with a nice little video montage here to really get us in the mood for what this draft actually is. So if you'll follow me along, we're going to go ahead and get into this thing. Oh, yeah, man. That's like some cool 1990s movie theater, Atari, whatever you want to call it. Getting into it, and then a little bit of synth, like some Knight Rider. Again, I could sit here and listen to this the whole time, but I'll spare everybody. Let's go ahead and get into the first slide. Our first pick of the NFL draft, Mr. Xavier Legette. If you haven't heard this guy talk, his accent will immediately endear him to you, and you will want to root for this kid. Doesn't matter what you thought about him as a prospect. This kid just sounds like he is hungry. He is ready to play. Dan Morgan said that he wanted dogs. Alex, I don't know, man. What do you think? Is this dude a dog?
You play to win the game. And this is the ultimate upside. I personally think Xavier Worthy is the ultimate upside. We were never going to get him. Chiefs would have always gone ahead of us. This is probably, outside of the top 3, those 3 guys are just by far and away above everybody else. He's like number 5 on my list as far as upside. I love the play to win the game. He could bust. I mean, he really could. He needs to be more polished at route running. But man, that dude works hard. That dude is. I mean, a video comes out every day, every single day of him running routes and working and doing everything that he does. And it sucks that you have to make this comparison all the time. He reminds you of DK Metcalf. He reminds you of the guy that's going to see an interception and walk a dude down 80 yards down the field and tackle him. Like, that's who this guy is.
Yeah, and you know what, man? For me, the way that I was approaching all of this, too, to see what they did with the draft picks, I really wanted them to bring in players with skill sets that were not currently on the roster, right? that was like my main goal as a fan, was to see them improving areas that were sorely missing last season. We had no explosive players. We had no ball winners. And we just didn't have anybody that defenses had to account for. Every single time that you lined up and you had your formation out there, there wasn't a guy that put any kind of fear into a defense. Xavier Legette, in my opinion, absolutely does that. Now, I've got a couple of clips from my pre-draft work. I got some cut-ups that I was doing of prospects. I haven't sequenced these or anything like that. These were just the ones that I have. Yeah, super lazy, man. You know what, dude? I went through a shit ton of work the past month. So this week,
yes, you
I
did.
have done nothing, man. I have sat around and tried to do the most minimal amount of effort in everything that I've done.
Real fast, was I muted that entire last time I talked?
No. I heard you the whole time. I muted you afterwards just in case. Yeah, I muted you afterwards just in case you're going to crack a beer or something like that.
You need to shut up.
But you know what, man? I'm not going to mute you if we crack another beer. We'll make a game out of it and see how many we crack tonight.
Real fast, because nobody saw this last episode.
Yeah.
Me, Ricky, I'm going to, when I start saying names, you're gonna have to finish my sentences. Me, Ricky, and Edgar and
JJ
did a podcast, and I recorded, and when I was in the middle of nowhere, North Carolina, and I kind of gave a ton of pushback that this would be the pick, and all three of them were kind of in agreement. And I was like, I have all this data of what happens, and there's one of my flaws, right, is that I get a theory and I try to prove that theory instead of looking at the overall data. And everything was there that this guy was going to get drafted. So kudos to you. I was wrong, and people should know that I was wrong, even though the podcast didn't come out because I had no internet.
Well, yeah. And first off, I wasn't even going to say anything about that podcast. That was the one that we would just forget existed. So to save you and I the shame,
man,
I felt so awful about that whole situation because we took the time of JJ Hardy's Panthers Culture on Twitter. If you're familiar with Panthers Culture, a phenomenal guest, great insight. And then of course our pal Edgar Salmingo Jr. We just had a really fun time, and we got really deep into the analysis of how guys would fit. It was like a 2.5 hour episode, man.
They were so good. They were so good. I felt so bad.
And unfortunately, Alex was out on the set of The Strangers, essentially, where it was only his house and 1,000 trees. So we weren't able to get it up into the public. But if either one of JJ or Edgar listens to this episode, guys, I can't wait to get you back on the show. Apologize about us being doofuses.
No, not us.
I should have prepared team,
way
man.
better.
We're a team. I got to take that one on the chin too, man.
I took 8 hours editing that, and I couldn't upload anything because that just didn't have the internet.
But to your point, though, Xavier Legette is what has been JJ's guy pretty much all along. He has championed this guy as a great pick. The South Carolina connection obviously doesn't hurt. But in all honesty, man, Xavier Legette has a lot of things that he brings to the table. Let's go ahead and watch some of these clips while we talk about what he does bring to the table. Mm-hmm. So for me, man, the first thing that I think of is that explosiveness and that above the rim play. And this is a great example of it right here. You see that deep crosser right here where he gets on that vertical plane. He gets behind. Now, he doesn't stack the defender, but Spencer Rattler, this is the epitome of that. Hey, Xavier's down there somewhere. Look at the hang time for him to go up and high point that football and come down with it. The body control in the air to stay up there. And this is what that does. The corner right there, Kamari Lassiter, he starts playing off coverage a little bit because he has to respect Xavier Legette's on that vertical stretch. He has to respect that speed. And he backs off coverage, and Xavier just does a real quick comeback hitch and separates enough for that reception. The play before that, and I'll pause it. If we go back to the play before this one, though, so this is on that comeback. He presents a really nice big target for his quarterback, too, and I think that's just such a huge aspect. Here's where I think Canales has said, we're going to play all kinds of different ways with Legette, right? We're going to get him involved on jet sweeps. We're going to get him involved on motions, digs, crossers, deep pass, all of those things. I have a little bit of trepidation on the quick screen game with Legette. He's going to have to work a little bit on getting upfield immediately. Now, he's terrific in special teams, like punt return, kick return aspects. So I know he's got the ability. But if you watch here, his lateral movement isn't as fluid as his vertical movement, right? When he's north and south, he's a lot more dynamic. When he's east and west, he's not as fluid. He's not twitchy, man. And he's not supposed to be twitchy. He's 6'1", 223 pounds. Like, this is a big dude, like you said, cut in a very similar mold of a DK Metcalf. But he gets that ball, and he just doesn't necessarily have the wiggle, right? So, like, he's kind of got to have a runway to be going through. But what this does is on this play right here, they do a very similar thing. Or no, this is Xavier down here. This is him. What a high point down there. Did you see that? We don't have anyone on the roster that could do that, man. So, like, when you talk about what Xavier could do for this offense, that's it. Like, that is a quarterback's best friend.
Yeah, it's going to sound like a weird comp that I have for him. He reminds me of Anthony Edwards coming out of the draft in the NBA, where he just kind of talks weird. There's all this stuff about, like, he's just like a pure insane athlete. But when he's on the court, like, you see all the effort that he puts in, and you see the upside, and that's what you're drafting. You're drafting the upside, right? And when he's on the court, you're like, dude, this dude is just going to do everything he can, even if he doesn't know the X's and O's and the specific footwork and all that kind of stuff. He's going to get that ball. Like, he's going to put that ball in the hoop for Anthony Edwards purposes. And you just can't teach athleticism.
You can't teach it, right? And yeah, 100%, man. And that's honestly, if he's such a hard worker, like we have heard him to be, like we've seen him to be, if he's got that drive and he has the God-given talent, right? And he has the size benefit that he brings, it's going to be really difficult for defenses to not account for him every time he's on the field. Maybe he's not a high volume guy right out of the gates. Doesn't have to be. If he's getting 4 generated touches, 5 generated touches a game, 1 or 2 of those can be home run shots. Like, he can take anything to the house. You see him here, and his alignment is something that I really appreciate too. He could play inside, he could play out, he could play the X, he could play the Z. The conversation is that he's bad off of press coverage. I don't entirely agree with that. I've seen him win in press coverage as much as I've seen him win in off. Now, does his release package need a little bit of refinement? Sure. Because when he plays against top flight corners, if he's playing the X and he's against press, he is going to have to figure out how to win immediately off the line of scrimmage to play in that quick pass game that Canales wants to do. But I mean, right here, man, look at how he gets that separation with that head fake. He's got some nuance to his route running. It's not all super fluid. It's not all refined, but the nuance is there. Watch, he's going to flash down here across the bottom of your screen. Right there when he sells it with his head, that's how you create separation in the NFL. Every single one of those aspects plays a critical part. And then the yard after catch threat that he poses, man, it just can't be understated. That right there is a terrific example of what he can do on those jet sweeps. Here he gets skinny going through the hole, which for a big guy, it's difficult, right? But he finds those small runways, man, and when he gets his momentum behind him, he can take off. Watch on this next play when he comes through. There's the hole. It's already there. So you got to have the vision. And as a wide receiver, having that vision is imperative, right? It's like a running back with the ball at this point. He sees it, goes through, gets skinny, finishes the play. That's what you want, man.
Yeah, he seeks contact. He moves upfield. I mean, it's now, and that's another thing you can't teach. I mean, it's everybody. The small. I was a small guy, right? I'm not a small guy as far as like, but I was 5'8" in high school. I'm probably 5'9" now.
Right.
And I did not seek contact when I was coming. Small guys don't do that. Guys that are just like Cam Newtons of the world are like, yeah, I'm going to see the hole and I'm going to go through it. Like, I just am. I'm going to be fearless about it. And it's that one split second of there's no doubt in my mind that this is where I'm going with it.
Yep. That
separates people in the NFL, in my opinion.
Yep.
And how many people eat crow about the whole can't beat press coverage? Justin Jefferson coming out couldn't beat press coverage. It's like, let's.
A lot of times with prospects, you have to understand that just because you didn't see them do it all the time on their college tape doesn't mean that they're not capable of doing it. College offenses are different, right? The usage is different. I don't have as much of a question as some people do. Now, one thing that I do have a question about is on this next play. This is something that he's going to have to get better at. His run support, his run blocking. Sometimes his athleticism almost gets him in trouble in a way. Where he moves too fast and he misses his spot. He takes bad angles and his timing is off. This is an example right here. You see him lined up inside. and you got the motion coming on the far side. Motion it out. Right here, you see the defender is already stopping, and Xavier is still facing forward. Watch what happens when he tries to get there. No, he's beat. I mean, he's beat right away there, right? And then his guy ends up making the play there to stop him. That's a play that you're going to have to figure out. Now, right here is, you remember that jet sweep we saw earlier that didn't look overly, or the little bubble screen that we saw earlier that didn't look overly effective. He looked a little clunky. He didn't get a huge gain on it. Look what the defense does on this, though, on the threat. They all follow Xavier Legette. Watch on this angle right here. Xavier comes through. Look at that second line of defense. Every single person is following Xavier over to that right side. Every single player on that second and third level of the defense. And what that opens up is an open opportunity right here for a teammate. You think that doesn't entice Dave Canales and Brad Isaac from an offensive standpoint? Deontay Johnson, Jonathan Mingo on some of these opportunities to get him out in space? I think that they can complement each other, man. Everyone wants to say that it's overkill, right? I disagree entirely. I think that they could be complementary players. They just have to be used correctly. And we didn't see that last year, so we all have a little bit of trauma, right?
Wait, you said Evero said that?
No. I said everyone. Everyone.
I think you said Evero. I was like, why is he
no.
Evero
Didn't say. No, Evero minds his business, man. That dude just puts his hat on and goes to work.
Doesn't he, though? Dude,
doesn't he?
It's so, dude, I love that guy.
Me too. That's a Panther right there.
Dude, and
now here's Xavier coming in through the slot. Now this one does not go to Xavier, but if you watch here the route on this crosser, he gets nice separation here, right here. That's a play that you could hit him on, right? So it's not always about the plays that are completed. You got to watch what he does and the way that he works that middle of the field. Now the safety closes on him, but if you use a little bit of anticipation, and I happen to know a quarterback that does throw with great anticipation, and that's Bryce Young of the Carolina Panthers. I think that this is a nice match, man. I saw a lot of people say they didn't feel like this was a really terrific marriage between them. I don't know, man. I really think that it can work. It's really going to depend on how Dave Canales uses him. What was your initial thought, though, with drafting and trading up, by the way? We traded into the first round to get this guy. What'd you think of that?
Yeah, I think that if anyone gets the most out of wide receivers they draft, it's Dave Canales.
Yeah.
Who are the two Seahawks that you think of right away when I say wide receiver?
DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett.
Correct.
Right.
Guess in Canales' entire time at Seattle, they moved up to get two wide receivers. Who do you think they were?
Those two.
Exactly. So when he has conviction about, because he was wide receivers coach for this team, right?
Right.
When he has conviction about somebody, I don't ask questions. And this is going to be a common thing. We're going to talk about a bunch of guys. I'm not going to question Canales about wide receivers. I'm not going to question Morgan about linebackers, and I'm not going to question Evero about defensive backs. Maybe I will, but I will question it, and then I'll say, but I'm kind of just some guy.
Yeah, right.
When and I think I said that in an earlier episode, I want to see them have conviction about a guy rather than be the I don't want to get in trouble kind of guy.
That's fair.
I'm going to move. And this is me. I wanted them to move back. But I love that not only do they have their guy, they told everybody in the world that they wanted this guy, and they moved up and got this guy because they were like, we want you for a fifth year. We already know this. Like we believe in you so much. I love Legette wasn't this high on my board, but I love that they love him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, he was wide receiver 9 for me, and there was wide receivers ranked ahead of him in my personal board. Jalen Polk, everyone knows how much I like him. And I still think that he would have been a really great fit here, too. Like, it's not that I think that he would have been a bad player here, but I understand the appeal of Xavier Legette so much because of that dynamic, big play ability, which, by the way, I will go ahead and toot my own horn here for 1 second. Jalen Polk went 37th to the New England Patriots.
Oh, yeah.
So everyone that thought I was out of my gourd by talking about how NFL teams are going to like Jalen Polk so much more back in December, I'm not the dumbest person in the world. It's like that meme from Succession. He's like, hey, I'm not smart, but I'm also not dumb. There's a little method to my madness.
I'm usually good at giving you flowers, but I was in North Carolina with a niece and nephew that wanted me to watch them do every single thing that they do in life. Draw a picture, eat a carrot. Like
it's a huge thing every time they accomplish anything, right?
Exactly.
Like, hey, Uncle Alex, did you see me eat that green bean?
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking nailed it.
And they're old enough now to know when I'm lying. They're like, no, you didn't.
Oh,
I
yeah.
watched you. I was like, oh crap.
It's a dangerous part of that time, man. We got to be careful with that. Okay, but so I liked Leggett. That got everything rolling for me, right? I thought that was a nice intro into the first draft. Then we go to the second round. Second round, because we already got a first round pick that we didn't have. Second round, we moved back. That was the first initial move. And I think we moved to, 52? Yeah, 52 with the Los Angeles Rams, right? They moved up to select Braden Fisk, the defensive tackle out of Florida State. We moved back to 52, but in that move back to 52, we recouped one of maybe the best gems of the entire draft, in my opinion. And we got our future second round pick for next year back. It's a Rams pick, so you're not looking, in all likelihood, you're not looking at like a top 8 to 10 pick. Yeah, right. Who knows?
They could be the third most injured team and not be very good, because that's what happens when you get hurt. Random dude on Twitter.
And you're telling me that can happen to anybody, Alex?
Oh, if you looked at my last tweet, I just told you what the last 8 teams that had the third worst pick, and none of them had a winning record. So you kind of have to be healthy.
You and I are also just a couple random dudes on Twitter, but there are other random dudes on Twitter that have been having rough days with some of these hot takes. There was a guy that was on and made a big old video about how the Carolina Panthers did not improve their roster at all with the NFL draft this season. Not at all. So all of that stuff that you just saw Xavier Leggett doing, and we talk about how that could absolutely benefit Bryce Young in this offense and everybody else on the offense. Really interesting to me that there's somebody that says, not only does that guy not help, but neither does Jonathan Brooks, the running back out of the University of Texas. Look, he's rehabbing an ACL. Yeah, go for it.
I just want to talk about, because you brought up a very good point. Guys that nobody listened to. I mean, people listen to this. I'm really glad they listen to it, but you're very talented. You're way better at this than I am. But things that in your lifetime that you've seen lazy analysis, those guys always fail. They jump on bandwagons, and right now the bandwagon is to shit on the Panthers with no actual analysis. It's just like, I'm just going to repeat what ESPN says, and people, and not only people outside of Panthers organization, but Panthers fans, because everybody's mad at Tepper, everybody's just frustrated with the team, right? So algorithms happen. I've been in those rooms. Algorithms happen. They go to the marketing team. The marketing team says what gives us the most traction, what gives us the most clicks, what gives all those things. And because not only do the outside world want to bully on a bad team, the Panthers want to. They shit on their team. So not only is everybody else getting clicks, Panthers fans are giving the same thing, the same clicks.
Right.
Nobody's going to be bad forever. The Browns were trash for a long time. They are pretty good now. The Jets have all this upside. The Lions made it to the conference finals. It is a 8-8 league. You separate that much. 7 of the 12 playoff teams were top 12 in strength of schedule. Strength of schedule matters. Health matters. No one ever knows. We all think we know, but everything has to play out. You have to get a certain amount of luck. So they all get paid to do this. I mean, there's some teams that have no shot, but we got to stop with the lazy, you guys sucked, you guys are going to still suck, you don't even have your first round pick. It's like, just freaking relax, guys.
Well, the NFL isn't a elementary mathematics, right? It's not a multiplication card. It's not 2 by 2 equals 4. It's not 3 by 3 equals 6. It's algebra. There are variables. There are variables to every equation, and those variables change. That's the whole reason they're called variables. You can't plan for them. And it's like the Mike Tyson quote, everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth, right? The Panthers got hit in the mouth 15 times last year. We had 2 plans. You know what I mean? So we went 2-15. We are not anticipating the incompetence from the top level down in the coaching arena or from the general manager. And I understand the hesitation with Morgan. I got it. I got the same hesitation. But coming into this season, man, you got to just see how they're doing things and how they're maneuvering. And it does make a lot of sense, in my opinion, so far.
Correct. Yeah. The Philadelphia Eagles had 4 wins 2 years later than the Super Bowl. The Los Angeles Rams had 4 or 5 wins 2 years later than the Super Bowl. Like these things, the freaking Texans, like these things turn around. You just need a little bit of luck along the way. When the Panthers went to the Super Bowl, when we went like just destroying everybody, we were pretty freaking healthy, and our division was pretty freaking terrible. Like it takes that sometimes.
Yep, I completely agree. Speaking of healthy, nice segue. Jonathan Brooks is rehabbing from a torn ACL, and that scares a lot of people, and I get it. But a torn ACL, a clean tear of the ACL, isn't the death sentence that it once was. We saw Breece Hall, the rookie running back for the New York Jets out of Iowa State. He had a terrific rookie season, and then he tears his ACL, I believe it was in October, and he was back for the beginning portion of the next season. Now, look, he didn't get the same usage right away. He kind of took a couple of weeks to kind of get into form. But by the end of it, by midway through the season, probably, honestly, week 5, week 6 of that Jet season, he looked like his old self. I don't know why I just said that like I was a leprechaun. He looked like him old self.
I kind of like that.
I felt like Conor McGregor in the new Roadhouse movie. Which, by the way, don't watch that shit. I've already watched it twice. That's what happens when you drink too much beer. But anyways, that's a story for a whole different podcast. Yeah, it's bad.
It's so bad.
Jonathan Brooks, though, man, this dude is a dynamic 3-down running back. My favorite thing about him was that he is the best pass protector in the entire running back class, like by far. He will get in the way of a rusher. He will provide his quarterback extra time to make a play. And he doesn't just jar a defender. He completely redirects them. He reroutes defenders when he chips on them. Outside of that, we haven't had a dynamic pass catching running back since one Christian McCaffrey. That is an element that Brooks 100% brings. Let's go ahead and fire up his tape while we talk about him. First, while we watch this tape, though, what was your impression on the Jonathan Brooks move up? Did you think that was too high for a running back taking him in the second?
No, I don't. For a guy like Jonathan Brooks, when healthy, absolutely not. I think that he is by far, if that ACL never happens, I think he's a first round pick. I think you're getting value out of him. I'm going to steer this like a little ways because I just literally I'm just like a numbers geek, and I just look at numbers and I try to find trends, and sometimes I get too attached to my theories on things. I'm trying to think of all these guys that have come through. Are we? And when people talk, listen, right? When Canales talks, I think we have a shot at the division. Like there's not big upwards momentum for anything.
Yeah.
And then I'm going like by like let's say take Jalen Hurts. Second year, they draft a receiver in the first round, Devontae Smith, and then they go after a guy in year 3. Like they're playing for year 3. Like Burrow, year 2, they way over exceeded, but they went and got Chase in the first round, and then they just took off. Lawrence, they traded for Kirk, and then the third year they got Ridley. Like these kind of things are always playing for year 3, and with Brooks, it kind of feels like I don't know if we're gonna like start him week 1 or week 2, or it might just be literally easing him in because year 3, if you look at the cap space for the next year and how we can manipulate that and what we can bring in, we're gonna have a hell of a roster next year. And I just think that this draft pick was for next year, and they saw the value of it where everybody else is playing for this year.
So, and I agree in part with that. I think that you can anticipate his best football coming latter portion of this year to next year and the years beyond.
You got to carry momentum. I mean, Jonathan Stewart says that all the time. When they won the division, when they were 7-8-1, he says that's what led us to the Super Bowl.
Right, exactly. And for Brooks, the benefit of him coming into this exact situation, Chuba is in his final year of his contract. We know that the wise maneuvering in the NFL is that you don't pay running backs a second contract, right? You don't pay them big money on a second contract. Now, if you can get them for a team-friendly deal, sure, go ahead if you want to bring somebody back. But what you typically see happen here is a team will run the tread off those tires their final year. They will allow that player, and as shitty as this may sound, it is common practice in the league. They will allow that player to run until they are exhausted in that final year. They will squeeze that lemon until they get all the juice out of it, right? That is the typical way they go about it. For Jonathan Brooks, that ain't a bad thing, man, because Chuba is a nice complementary player to Brooks. First of all, they have different styles, and we'll see that when we get into this clip. They have different styles. They have different approaches, right? Chuba is going to lower his shoulder and barrel over people. Jonathan Brooks, he's capable of it, but he's more inclined to look for that chess move of what is behind that defender. If I can make him miss, am I gone? Like, that is the difference in mentality between them. But when we talk about how he could play with the ball, catching the ball out of the backfield, this is a great example. This play is paused right here. Ewers finds him, and he's over here in this corner right here. He's about to catch this little screen.
Where's
dump
your
off
laser?
pass. Yeah, I do need a laser, man. Oh, that's exactly what I need. Damn it. All right. For the next episode, I'm going to get a laser. I don't even give a shit if I have a reason to use it. I'm going to use a laser pointer. So if you have cats, look forward to the next episode. So right here, he's going to dump this out to him. There's where he catches it. Watch what he does with this maneuvering through traffic and how many yards he gains on this. This is not something we have on our roster right now. Contact balance, these arm tackles. He is going through guys. They cannot bring him down with half-ass attempts. His contact balance is one of his super strengths, but his vision is another one. He's a very patient runner, and I really appreciate that about him. I saw somebody mention he might be the most patient runner since Le'Veon Bell. Right
his
here.
Timing's so good.
It's so good. And look at this, man. I mean, this defender right here has a free go at him, right? Nope. He plants that foot. Look at this defender, dude. I mean, he just is broken down the minute that he plants that lead foot. Watch this. Plant. And that defender, he's like, oh, man, I'm toast. This is going to make a highlight. Yep. See you later. And then right here comes a little arm tackle. Can't bring him down with an arm tackle. Now, he ran into his own guy's ankles there that kind of tripped him up. But that's exactly what he brings. So right here, you look at him. Here he comes across. Oh, man, did you see the 1-2 step there?
He's so polished already.
Look at
really
this.
Is.
And here's the thing, man. He's got low mileage on his tires. This was his first full season as a feature back. So, I mean, you're talking about a guy that only has 100-something carries to his name. So you're going to get a guy who is going to grow. He's 20 years old. He's turning 21. This is a young guy that is learning the nuances of the position, and he has this much natural talent. It is only going to get so much better. Watch how he does this move right here on this safety, man. I mean, he sets him up. When we talk about the difference between, I think it was Aaron Duncan, someone we had on the show, he showed a side-by-side clip of Chuba Hubbard on one play where he was one-on-one with the safety, and then he showed this exact play. And the approach that Brooks takes here of, I can make him miss and I can get by him. He does a quick 1-2 step, gone. Watch this. 1-2, boom, out.
He runs so low, too.
And maybe he doesn't have the all the way home run speed, right? He ends up getting caught there. Yeah. But he's also a really smart runner. Look at what he does here, man. Once he gets out in space, he runs straight to that sideline. He wants to make it the furthest distance for defenders to get to him. Watch this. He's going straight and goes, hold on. Let me make this more difficult. Get to that sideline. Get to that sideline. Make everybody take the longest angle they have to make that tackle. Just a smart ball player. Now, here he is at pass pro. Oh, look at that. Look at that, man. Look, this is the kind of shit that I love. Here he is back here on this offside, right? You got the rusher coming off the edge. Watch what he does where he chips to help Christian Jones, his right tackle. Boom. Nope. Just completely removes him from the play.
And he gives he chips him. He makes sure his quarterback's okay, and he goes out on the route, and he's there for a dump off.
This one right here literally saves the play to allow for a touchdown. Watch this. Watch this pass pro right here. You got the blitzer coming through the middle, linebacker coming through the middle, pick up, stonewalls him.
Oh, wait, you see the confidence on the quarterback. The quarterback's like, I don't got to worry about that. Like,
watch him come to the hole and meet the linebacker. Stonewalls him. Look at the pocket all of a sudden. The pocket is clean.
Quarterback's been looking for the whole, towards the end of the year, you think Bryce was like, oh God, I'm going to get rocked again.
Exactly.
That quarterback's eyes downfield the entire time.
And this allows the quarterback to step up. Now, look, there was nobody downfield, or Quinn Ewers just panicked, which is something that he did every now and then. But either way, he afforded him that ability. And then here is a great play right here. Just his ability to get the most for that yardage, man. Look how he bounces it outside right here. He's got a nice bounce to him. Decisive, vision, skinny through the hole, and then kicks it outside. That's a good run. Aaron Jones, a little bit.
Okay.
Who are you thinking?
I was going to go really ridiculous.
Uh-oh.
I think he has some Le'Veon Bell in him.
It's the patience with his running, but he doesn't pause or hesitate as much as Le'Veon, but he does have that little like hesitation and go.
It's the quick, it's the sell quick. Everything's timed. Like everything that he does is like almost like it was scripted in a play, right? Like, which I mean, theoretically it is, but it is. He just has such an understanding of what's going on in every single play and what he's supposed to do already.
Right.
I love the player, and it's just you're hoping that he comes back good. But like Javonte Williams, Saquon Barkley after a year, Breece Hall, like ACL tears ain't what they were.
Let me go ahead and pop that one. Service. All right. This play right here, I had this one on here because, he accrued, I think, 10 touchdowns last year before his injury.
He was in the Heisman conversation.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, he's 6 foot, 216 pounds. So he's not like a large guy because he's also got good length to him.
While we're on, Chark to the Chargers.
Oh, did he go? Mm-hmm. That's a good landing spot for him. They got Ladd McConkey in the draft. So, I mean, I think that makes some good sense for him there. Quentin Johnston is the only receiver really on that roster after Ladd. So maybe Joshua Palmer. So it's a solid landing spot for him. We'll see what he does. He's gonna have to shore up on the drops for Harbaugh. Harbaugh is gonna be a stickler on some shit like that. But good for DJ, man. I hope DJ bounces back, dude. I think the DJ got look, DJ had some critical mistakes and errors here in Carolina. He also had some really crucial plays that he made where we didn't have a lot of playmakers making them. So nothing but best of wishes for DJ Chark, man. I hope that he lands on his feet.
He's going to be excellent with a high volume run team with a great offensive line. And in theory, that's what we were going to bring to the table last year.
Right.
And he just got really unlucky. Like, he's just not going to beat people immediately on routes. Right. His play action is his best friend, and you saw that at the Lions. And Harbaugh, a guy that loves to run the ball, and literally just has one of the best tackles in the league, and just got maybe one of the other best tackles in the league.
Yep.
Play action is going to be really good for him.
They also got my guy Kimani Vidal, by the way. Watch out for him.
I was talking about this earlier today.
Yep. All right.
I like
Anyways, let me get back to the Carolina Panthers running back. I wanted to bring this up because
thanks for coming on the pod.
Yeah, exactly. I did want to bring up though because you wonder a lot of the conversation is the Carolina Panthers need a goal line back. We need a short yardage guy. We need a bruiser. Brooks isn't that, but what he is with his patience and his vision is he can take advantage of small holes and crevices and know how to capitalize on them. This is a good example, in my opinion. You watch this play, he gets it. Look, defense is already there in the backfield, right? That line has already collapsed. But look at how he sees that. He takes one jump cut,
correct,
goes through, and then drives, churns those legs. He's got enough leg churn, man. Watch again, right here. He gets the handoff, sees it. Look, defenders closing in. That's his gap. Where that defensive tackle is coming in, that's his target. That's where he's supposed to be running. He sees that. Real quick jump. Look at that. Just completely changes. And now he's one-on-one with that safety. Watch. Go. Just go. Drive those legs. Touchdown. On this play, let's see. I don't know exactly which one this is. This is against TCU. Oh, this is a nice play right here. Look at, that's wide open space, first of all. Now, the defender here does get past his guy. No big deal.
He didn't
Gets him. Yeah. Whoop. Whoop. You need the Chris Berman. Whoop. And then he just takes off. And again, here he is. Get to the sidelines. Make that angle as difficult as possible. I just think he's a smart runner, man. I think he brings so much to the table here. Here he is on another one. Now, this is against Rice, so you got to take this one with a little grain of salt, right? But again, this is just what he could do in the pass game, man. Allow him to use that vision, the acceleration, and understanding what to do with the ball, and he can get you 6, man. We don't have that on the roster. So we're 2 for 2 here on adding skill positions and weapons for Bryce Young in this offense that did not exist prior to this draft, in my opinion. So let's go back to the draft.
And people hated on this move most of all because what we gave up to get him, right? This is like as far as like analyst.
Talking about Brooks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're like, well, you kind of knew the Giants wanted him and you kind of knew that the Cowboys wanted him. Would you have said the same thing if they would have? It's just like.
Right. Or would the conversation have been like, oh, man, Dallas really needed a dynamic running back. Correct. And they went and they get this hometown kid who's 20 years old, barely scratching the surface, but his talent is through the roof. That would have been the way that went. Yeah. But for us, it was, man, what a reach. You took a running back in the second round, which, by the way, you're a numbers guy. You probably appreciate this one, Alex. 14 of the last 20 leading rushers in the NFL were selected top 50 in the NFL draft.
Oh, yeah.
14 of the top 20. The other 6 were all within the top 93. So second and third round picks are where you find elite running backs. Like that is where you can find them. In the first 3 rounds is where you're going to get premier talent. Is there every now and then the guy that's in the 5th, 6th, 7th round? Sure, man. Of course there is.
For a year.
But for every James Robinson, there's 7 Sean Alexanders and LaDainian Tomlinsons and Derrick Henrys, right? DeMarco Murray's. That was one of the guys that was in like the 60s or the 70s when he was picked. We didn't have another pick until 72. If they love Jonathan Brooks, which they clearly did, what is the issue with them going and getting him at 46 when they already recouped a future second? I see no qualms, dude.
And you're seeing it, man. And that's what like I try to get people to understand is when one team does it, it's like, meh. When everybody starts doing it, you know who drafts a running back every single year? The Rams, the 49ers, the Seahawks. Like it's becoming because they're so low value as far as what you have to pay them after their contract. Right. And so analytically, like I told you before, it's like analytically it says you're supposed to draft a quarterback every year because it's the most important position. And if you can get him on a rookie deal, you've won for 5 years.
Right.
Same thing's going on with the running back. You hit on your running back. That's why Seattle drafted Kenneth Walker and then Charbonnet. Jets drafted Breece Hall and then Ibagway. That is there. Like people are slowly catching on to you got to get your guys and you got to get them early. And from now on, every year, just allocate a second or third round pick to running back.
And here's the thing that I'll say, and then we can finish this running back conversation. But here's what I'll say about that whole analytic, the value of a running back. I get it. That's fine. But when you talk about the value of a running back, you're talking about contract value.
Correct.
You're not talking about success to a team.
Correct.
Because you look at who was in the Super Bowl last year, Christian McCaffrey and Isaiah Pacheco, completely different ends of the spectrum of where they were drafted, but their importance to their teams is very similar. When the Chiefs needed yardage, Isaiah Pacheco was their guy. When Christian McCaffrey was on the field, he was the most dangerous one on the field. And that was with an offense of Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle. There is not a way to tell me that running backs aren't extremely important and valuable still today in this new modern NFL. You spread out all these defenses with these spread offenses and these new rules. Why would the running back not be important? He is going to have a lot more running room. So if you have a smart, really good vision running back with ability to run through tackles and catch the ball out of the backfield and stay on the field for all 3 downs and provide protection for your quarterback, how the hell is that not valuable? That either way, we agree on that. The value of the contract, sure, man, maybe it's not great, but the value of the position to a team's success is still absolutely imperative.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's value as far as a data. If you love the guy and you value him as a $20 million player, you're still only going to pay him 12, 13.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. So this guy right here, man, this was the pick that I think most fans would have sat there and saw their TV, saw the selection and said, I don't know about that one, right? Like that one feels iffy to me. My initial read on this, I think that they absolutely loved Edgerrin Cooper. I think that they absolutely liked Junior Colson. And both of them went before Trevin Wallace, before they came up at pick 72. My trepidation here, man, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic because that's not how I want to be about this. This felt a little reminiscent, not of the DJ Johnson because of the type of player he is, but DJ Johnson on it being a reactionary pick. They saw two players at the position that they wanted to attack here go before him, and I think that they picked ahead of where they would have been able to get this player. I think they could have gotten Trevin at pick 101, possibly, but even if they couldn't have gotten him at 101, I still think you could have gotten, I mean, Peyton Wilson went at like 93 to the Steelers. Cedric Gray went around that area. I also like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. This was my linebacker 6. Those are the guys that I had in front of him. I did have Trevin in my top 100. He came in at exactly overall prospect 100. So when we go on to this next pick, it's kind of in that realm of what the Lions did. If you swap around some of the values of these picks, maybe you don't feel so bad about it, right? Because the next pick that we got, everyone says was our best value pick. So if you were to just swap these two values, and at the end of the day, man, they're both on the team, so it don't really matter where they ended up getting taken, right? Trevin Wallace, my hesitation with this, I don't think that he makes much of an impact outside of special teams, at least year one, maybe even year two. He's a great athlete, 4.51, 40-yard dash, almost a 79-inch or just over 79-inch wingspan. Really long, great physical player, 6'1", 237, so he's stout. He has the makings of a Mike linebacker. I just don't see the production matching the athleticism. And that always gives me a little bit of pause when the tape doesn't corroborate what you see in testing. I love it when it does, right? Like Xavier Legette, man, you saw his testing was through the roof, but then you watch him play, and that speed and that leaping ability and that physicality, it shows up. With Trevin, it does, but in very small flashes. We could bring his stuff up. What did you think of the Trevin Wallace pick?
I going back, Dan Morgan history linebackers usually pretty good. I agree. I am shocked because they traded up twice that they didn't just continue to trade back and just get a bunch of guys. Yeah. Because it felt like you got to do some sort of play the value of the player. And they said, this is the one thing that I think that they kind of lied about, where they're like, we really want to be truly best player available.
Yeah.
It played out too perfectly. And you saw my tweet today, like very, very perfectly of how they saw them drafting.
Right.
And they had, he's a rookie coach, rookie GM. I mean, he's probably going to make mistakes, that they thought that Colston and Edgerrin Cooper or somebody like that would be there because they were so set on taking linebacker here because this is when we always take it. This is when we find the best value at linebacker.
And they also maybe had an initial plan of picking at 65 here instead of 72 because the trade ups and trade backs, that all happens on the fly, right?
Yeah.
They didn't have any idea where they were going to be able to maneuver that. So they may have had 65 as their range there.
Yeah. But I also think that if someone is coachable and has talent, Luvu's undrafted, right? All right. And then we had Grugier Hill make plays. I mean, guys like can kind of step up at linebacker. I think that's another one that doesn't make enough money, but you can just keep on drafting them and you'll hit on one eventually. It feels like, honestly, these 3 picks are like that because tight ends don't make a ton of money until Hawkinson finally got paid. And now people are starting to put value on tight ends more. But linebacker and running back, just take guys in the second and third round. And if it doesn't work, get them again. Because once you finally hit on them, you don't have to pay them that much. You have them for an entire career.
But see, for the Panthers too, man, my worry is we got Shaq Thompson coming off of his Achilles, right? Mm-hmm. You signed Josie Jewell. That's fine. But if Shaq re-injures or if he's not the same Shaq that we saw pre-injury, right? Behind him, you've got Claudin Chairless and Chandler Wooten. Now, I like Chandler Wooten to make the roster last year. I didn't necessarily feel overly confident about him going in as like my starting Mike, right? If Shaq doesn't play well or he gets hurt, Trevin isn't ready to step into a every down role. From my perspective of just watching his film, right? I don't know this though. Maybe he also didn't look great in coverage on his film, but he was also tasked with a lot of drop zone assignments. He didn't do a lot of like man-to-man coverage. So a lot of that is really tough to delegate where he's supposed to be and how many of those. He allowed 90% reception rate. 28 of 31 targets were receptions against him. But how much of that is zone coverage, where that's just his responsibility at the end of the day? The ball production wasn't there. He's got the length to be more disruptive in that area. But then he goes and he participates in the Senior Bowl with Jim Nagy. If Jim Nagy absolutely raved about this guy, he said that he's got incredible abilities in coverage. It's just a matter of putting it all together, right? Now, look, here's what he's great at. He has great closing burst. That is the one thing that stood out immediately to me. He is a read and react linebacker. You'll hear those terms over and over with him. That's also the type of player that Coach Hansen, our linebacker coach, actually prefers. So watch what he does here. He comes, and now the first thing he does is he bites on that play action. He crashes hard. Now, he does that fairly regular on tape. That's something he's going to have to get a little bit better on, because it makes him end up playing out of position when he's reading on that second level of the play. But here he sees what's happening. He sees this receiver, the tight end, coming across, and he knows it's going to him. Look at him close and get to him. Watch this speed right here. So he comes crashing down. He's out of position. See 63 right here to the left? Watch him. He's over there in front of him. Watch how quickly he gets over here. Look at the speed. That's a great play. That's a terrific play that shows some instinct, and it shows that physical ability. Here's where a problem is. He gets tunnel vision. He does not see the blockers in front of him. He is staring at this receiver right here. He does not see big old 63 Cedric Van Pran Granger coming off of his mark right here, running in the open field. And watch what Van Pran does to him. Buries him. Buries him. Because he doesn't have his head up and he's not watching all of the play. He gets tunnel vision. Now, where he's supposed to make his hay, he had 5 sacks. So everyone says maybe he could provide some pass rush ability out of that off-ball linebacker position, right? Well, on this play, he's one-on-one. Now, granted, this is first-round pick Brock Bowers that he goes against, but Brock Bowers isn't necessarily revered for his blocking prowess. He's more of a weapon. Here he comes on the outside. Now, my issue with this, Bowers stops him right there. He's holding him up. He stonewalls him. But there's not a counter move. He just kind of stops. So if you're going to be a blitzing off-ball linebacker, you got to have a better array of moves, in my opinion, right? Because he right here, boom, there's first initial contact. Watch what he does after that contact. Just not much. There's just not much there from a secondary attack, right? I saw that a couple times. He's got hesitation with his blitzing, actually. Right here, he's out of position there. Now, the quarterback did not look for Bowers, but if you watch Bowers on this other view here, watch Bowers come around on this little curl on the outside. He's wide open right there. See where that referee is? Watch Bowers. He's wide open right there. Luckily, Carson Beck decides to throw somewhere else. Here's another instance of him coming off the blitz. Now, he gets stopped by the right tackle here. I believe it's Amarius Mims. Everyone gets stopped by Amarius Mims. If he's healthy, he is stopping an 18-wheeler with no brakes. I mean, this dude is an 18-wheeler with no brakes. He's a mountain. It's insane. So he gets stopped, but here's that closing burst again. Watch this. Once he gets free, he's right over there on that far side. You see that white jersey? Watch the closing speed and the violence on this one. Oh, man, the back end view of this is just poetry. I love this shit. Watch this. So look, stopped. Amarius Mims got him, but he sheds him right there. And now look at that. Just a beeline to the quarterback. Watch how violent he finishes this play. Buries him. This is a dude that broke a guy's leg and got up and fucking just like showboated. And look, I'm not a huge fan of that, to be completely honest. Like, I don't think that he knew that he broke the dude's leg or broke his kneecap or whatever. But that is that dog mentality. So if you say you want that, man, it's kind of hard to say you want a dog and then to get pissed off when the dog does dog things, right?
Some people just hit that zone and don't think. Like, and those are kind of the guys you want.
It is, though.
What those guys that when I'm in this game, and people fake that. People like pretend that like they're that guy, and
right.
But you can really tell the guys that are just like, I am going to murder you. And you know who else can tell this? The freaking quarterbacks.
100%.
And it just feels like, what is Evero's scheme? Let me just make as much chaos as I possibly can, and just give the quarterback not thinking about what he's supposed to do or whoever the player is, and just chaos. And if that's what you're doing, this guy is kind of perfect for that.
And his read and react proclivity, along with that closing burst and the violent finishing, it will remind some people of Frankie Louvu, the way that he had just all of a sudden, when he gets a quarterback in his sights, he just does the hands up, running at him, screaming at him, and the quarterback just kind of like Matt Ryan's a situation where he craps himself and is like, all right, dude, I got to get out of Dodge. But right here is another instance of what kind of bothers me sometimes about his blitzing. He has a running back that picks up this blitz, right? One-on-one with a running back, and the running back just kind of stuffs him and he just kind of stops. I'd like to see him go a little bit harder. And there's another instance of this. But see right here, 32 coming through, just it's very hesitant. Like he's just got some hesitation with it, and he's on a blitzing assignment. So just go. This is the other play. There is a wide open hole, but the running back comes in and he fills it. Instead of trying to barrel through, and the running back is directly in front of the quarterback's vision, instead of trying to barrel through that running back, which he can, right? He's 6'1", 237, full head of steam. Get in front of him, disrupt that quarterback, make him move off of his target in the pocket, make him move off of his spot, man. If you can make a pocket passer uncomfortable, you're going to make that pass uncomfortable, right? Instead of doing that, he tries to come around. And when he comes around, he provides that quarterback plenty of time. Now, legendary tight end Brock Bowers drops a touchdown here, but the only reason that he's able to even make this throw...
Wait, people drop passes?
People drop passes, yeah, man.
Dude,
it happens.
that is crazy.
But the only reason he's able to even get this off, though, is because Trevin decides not to just try to truck this running back. And I wish he would. You'll see it better on the other angle. But there's a hesitancy, man, and I don't want to see him get rid of that. Watch this. So right here, you see right there, it's an open hole to the quarterback. The running back's going to come in and pick up that hole. But if you look to the left, it's traffic. You're not getting through there either, right? So your best chance is to go through that running back. But instead, look how he does. He moves over. Don't do that, right? Go at him. The worst case scenario, you push that running back into the quarterback. Instead, quarterback steps up. Brock Bowers does Ian Thomas things.
Dude,
drops the ball. Sorry. It's a friendly fire.
I talked about this with Icky last year. Coaches, they can talk to players in a way for them to still do what they do well and not overthink it. And it's up to them to make things less complicated. And that's gonna be hard for a middle linebacker because you usually are like the captains of the defense. Like everything runs through you. But it feels like you saw it in one game where he's like, I got it. I'm good. I'm doing it. Yeah. I'm confident in everything I'm doing.
Yeah.
But in the next game, I bet he got beat or something. And I bet the coach was like, "Hey man, you can do this better. This is your fault." And so then you're second guessing yourself. You're not in the flow of the game. There's no.
Yeah, you got to get out of your own head, right? Like get out of your own way sometimes to play instinctually. But one of the holdups with Trevin is that his instincts don't necessarily shine. It's that read and react where he has to see the whole thing before he makes his move. And sometimes it's that extra tick of having to read that entire play in that entire scenario that either his body moves before he gets to that point and then he's out of position and he has to compensate with that incredible athleticism. But if he wasn't out of position, the emphasis on him recovering wouldn't be as imperative. So I would like to see him in better position to not have to make up that, because in the NFL, that second and a half could be a very big difference. Now, the one thing I'll say for Trevin, real quick, I do think that he can make an impact on special teams day one. He has played special teams before. He could be a gunner in the new kick return rules, essentially the XFL rules. I think he can make an absolute impact in the kickoff and the punt team. 100% as a gunner, I think that he can really make his presence felt. And then I think situationally, you can move him in on pass rush situations. You can move him in to kind of like if you're looking to disguise what you're doing on that back end in coverage and you want your linebackers to have the ability athletically to drop back or to come in and pressure, I do think he fits that mold a little bit better than a Josie Jewell. So I think that you could see times of him playing the Sam and things like that where he comes in and just plays in situational roles. But I don't think that he's going to impact the defense on a very early scope. And so when I talked about the Rams draft last time we all spoke, I talked about how their first 3 picks last year were really how they had a terrific draft. It wasn't the Puka Nacua in the 5th round. That's awesome. That's tremendous. It's also not likely to happen. It's lightning in a bottle type of situation. But what they did is they took their 2nd and their 2 third-round draft picks and they turned them into instant contributors. And that took their trajectory for the season from being a disappointing, probably lowly Los Angeles Rams team into being contenders in the NFC West and a playoff team. If we are to make that step next year, and I understand we're planning for the future, I get all that. I'm also a fan, and I'm sick and tired of losing and being told to wait and plan for the future, because also a lot of that relies on developing players. We've been spurred by that. We have not seen development of players. So I have a healthy amount of pause with being told just wait until next year, just wait until 2026. Man, we're going to be great. I want to be great now. Or I at least want to be better now. I at least want to be competitive now. And if these guys aren't able to make an impact year one, which I don't believe, man, I think Xavier Legette and I think Jonathan Brooks to an extent are going to make an impact year one. Trevin Wallace, I don't think he does. I hope that I'm very wrong about that, and I hope that he ends up being a ready contributor. I do think that he's a long-term type of player.
It is obvious, and this is going to, the more I look into it, it is obvious that we're not playing for this year, but that doesn't mean we can't shock the world this year. There's the talent's on the team. Who knows about the coaches? It's an 8-8 league. Like, you know what? Who had the 2 easiest strengths of schedule last year, and both of them were in the top 7 of health. Is Atlanta Falcons and New Orleans Saints. They had everything play out for them. They still didn't make the playoffs. Like, they're in a bad, like, we had everything go wrong, but we have young guys coming up. They're in cap hell. We can make probably about $100 million in cap space next year.
I am just so nervous about having to play Atlanta Falcons in their 2 quarterback system. That's just going to revolutionize the game, though. Like, I am absolutely terrified of the fact that Michael Penix Jr. is going to be their 2nd quarterback on the field, and probably, maybe they take a page out of the Pittsburgh Steelers where they put him back in kick returns like they're going to do with Justin Fields. I mean, we're just trying to get really creative in the NFL now and say, hey, look, quarterbacks, we want to get as many of you on the field as we can. Doesn't matter what position you play, just fucking get out there so that we can always throw the ball from any position.
Yeah, so weird.
Dumb shit, Falcons.
But
I love it, man. That was one of our best moves of the draft too, was the Falcons drafting Michael Penix Jr. at 8.
But so this, people think players are stupid. Players aren't stupid. They're surrounded by
only the Falcons are stupid.
Agents. No, I'm talking about like players as far as.
Oh no, I know, but I'm just reiterating. Only the Falcons.
Understanding what their expectations are. You know what? All these guys on this team are going to be. We're good. We're like, we're just like, even Deontay Johnson's like, hey, we're not gonna be good right away. Me and Bryce are gonna have to like develop rapport.
Yep.
They are loose. They're free. And you know what happens? The Detroit Lions happen, and they go that huge step. And then I'm trying to think of another. The Bengals happen. The Rams with golf. They know that they brought in Woods and they drafted Kupp, and they did basically exactly what we did. We brought in a free agent. We drafted our next guy. And you build your offense. You get your quarterback comfortable. You get loose, and you're like, oh shit, we just won 9 games. We won 10 games.
100%.
Now we have a year under our belt, and we have like all this camaraderie. Because you know what, all those guys are signed through 2 years.
Right.
Like they're all going to be here next year. There's not really anyone on the team that's like, except for Deontay Johnson, which I assume will extend, but
and I mean, that's it though. Like, it's all, he's still on the 1-year prove it deal, right? So like, as much as we all really like Deontay Johnson, when you really break it down, an elite receiver is never on a prove it year, right? They're just never on a prove it year. Justin Jefferson is never going to be on a prove it year. CeeDee Lamb is never going to be on a prove it year. DK Metcalf is never on a prove it year, right? Deontay can prove it though, because he's shown his ability to be a very good ball player. We just got to see how he fits with this offense. So as much as we want to say, man, he's going to have this terrific big breakout year, and we kind of like move Xavier Legette further and further down the plans because of Deontay Johnson, because of Adam Thielen. But Thielen was force-fed, right? He was hammered away last year. I still think that he could eat, man. I still think there's plenty of food to go around the table for him. But I don't see 100 receptions for Adam Thielen this season. I just don't see it because I think that they manufacture touches for Xavier Legette. And when I say that, though, I don't mean forcing him into an alignment where he's not good like we did with Jonathan Mingo and DJ Chark last year. I mean that they are going to take calculated approaches on getting him the football and giving him opportunities to show what dynamic he brings. But nobody has the ceiling at that position that Xavier Legette has. And it is not crazy to think that a guy who has all of that talent and who did put it together last year cannot continue that trajectory and keep that train rolling in his rookie year in the NFL. We have seen rookies find more success recently than we have historically. And that comes with innovative young coaching who know what they're doing. That is something that Dave Canales seems to have in his bag. Real quickly, let's get to this next pick because we're at like an hour and 5.
Yeah, but
this is the last guy.
Hanging out anyways.
This is the last guy that I have clips for because he was still in my top 150 prospects. So like I actually watched 182 prospects. So our 5th round pick I actually did have graded, but it was a partial grade. I didn't get to watch 4 games of him, and 4 is my minimum. So for the 5th round pick, he was 177 comes in. So I didn't have a proper cut up made for him. But this guy right here, Jatavian Sanders, this was a lot of guys' second tight ends in their rankings. This was tight end 2 on a lot of consensus rankings, a lot of Panther fans rankings. He was tight end 4 for me. I had Ben Sinnott number 2, and I had Cade Stover number 3. But Jatavian, man, he's not a bad player by any stretch of the means. And he brings a skill set that, once again, stop me if you've heard this one before, he brings a skill set that wasn't on the roster. That's good. That's good money for me. He is a true receiving threat, but where I have my struggles with him being a true receiving threat, he's not a terrific route runner. He is a terrific possession receiver, and he is strong. He's fast. He has incredibly strong hands. He makes some of the most difficult highlight catches you'll see, and he's a reliable pass catcher. He only had 1 drop, I think, last season, and he had none coming into this one. Very reliable, but he's not a 3-level route runner, so he can't create on his own. You'll see in some of these highlights, it is very calculated in how Texas got him the ball in space and stuff like that. But some of it does add a little bit of credibility to how I could see Canales wanting to use him. There he is over here, number 0. He's split out right here in the slot, so he's not always used in line. Inline blocking is a problem for him. I think he's efficient enough, and I've got some examples of this, efficient enough as a combo blocker as an inline player. But in one-on-one situations, man, he gets raked over. In open space as a lead blocker, he has some angle issues and overplaying some angles, and you'll see that too. But here he is on the inside here. If you watch him here, this is, I think, where they're going to get their money's worth with Jatavian. Oh, no, this is the block. Yep, there it is, slip screen. That slip screen right there, that's where he's going to make his money. That is honestly where he's going to make his hay early on in his career because it is a quick pass game. You can use him from different alignments to do it. There's one right here. That's a great combo block. How he sealed off right there with the tackle. He's at the end here, right next to Christian Jones there, right tackle. Watch how he attacks this defensive end. Seals him off. See how it opened up that hole? Directly responsible for that hole, but not on a one-on-one. That's a combo block. He can do that. There he is up top. He's on the line in bunch formation. This is Jatavian Sanders to a T. That is a strong hands catch in traffic. That's nuts. When you see the other angle of this man, I mean, this is why they called him man hands. He's got 10 and an 1/8 inch hands. Those are giant mitts, dude. You're talking about like a first baseman's glove on top of his wrists. Watch how he comes through traffic here. Very high level of difficulty on this catch, and his hands are the only reason he comes down with it. But again, look at the route. He is not getting separation remotely here. I mean, that guy's draped. That you could do the seatbelt move if you want to, if you're that corner. But look at that catch behind him over the defender's head. and he comes away with that thing and then still gets an extra 4 yards because he's a load to bring down. Now, right here, again, slip screen. He tries to show a little Tommy Tremble here. Or I thought that was the one where he tries to hurdle. Slip screen is going to be his initial thing. Right here, he's inside the slot. This is as a lead blocker. Man, he whiffs. This is where he has to work on his angles. Just absolutely whiffs. His guy gets an arm on him, slows him up enough for the other defender to come in and finish the play. That's going to have to get better. And I know that he's not a blocking tight end necessarily, but look how far over he went on his spot. He just missed it. You got to stay in front, man. Angle your body. Keep your chest in front of that player. Don't get to the side of him, man. You can't do anything there. You're going to get called for holding if you extend those arms. His defender gets an arm, slows him up enough, finishes the play. Right here, he's in line. Defender just gets right by him, and he ends up making the play. And you saw Jatavian, he put his hands up because he was beat immediately. Watch. Justin Ibogi, I believe, is that player right there. He was a 3rd or 4th round draft pick. He just immediately, his first move, he's through him. And he's in the backfield. Keep going. And Jatavian just has to pull off because if he touches him again, it's a penalty. He's holding. He's so far behind on the play. But his guy ends up going through and making that play from the weak side all the way over to the run side of that play. Right here, this is a missed block that could have been a touchdown. This is a screen out to Xavier Worthy. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Xavier Worthy. 4.21 long speed. Set the combine record. That's Jatavian who comes over in motion. Let's go back to the beginning of this play. He's lined up right there, offline. He comes out, fakes a motion. All he has to do is get his one guy. That one guy is between Xavier Worthy and a touchdown. Watch this. Whiffs. Tackle him. That was a touchdown. It was the difference between a 4-yard gain and a 42-yard touchdown, is that he couldn't make that block. That can't happen, man. When we look at Jonathan Brooks and what he could do out of the backfield, we look at the quick pass game for a Xavier Legette or even a Jonathan Mingo. You can't have that, man. That has to get shored up. Now, here's what he does well. Look at this. One-handed catch, busting the seam, and he takes a hit. And he takes a hit, man. But look at this catch. Watch this, dude. And his seam work, this is going to be where he can eat too, man. He can carry linebackers up that seam. Gets behind him. Oh, that's a hell of a catch, dude. We don't have that.
You know what this team can be, and I don't know if I think they're probably too nice guys to be this. But remember the Memphis Grizzlies just had all these young dudes, and they were just like, we're just young and fast and so much more athletic, and we're going to be dogs and talk crap. And like, I kind of want this for the team. It's like, yeah, we'll make mistakes. Like, you'll probably
like before Jaren Jackson really knew how to play the position, but he was just an athletic dude, and he just went out there and balled.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like we don't care about anything in the world, and then like, oh, we'll slowly start to figure it out. And we got this young, kind of like energetic coach that's going to kind of be like, yo, I love what you're doing, but like, you see that? You could have just done that. Yeah, And all of a sudden, the Memphis Grizzlies are the play-in team, and then they're the second team. You know, like that can make that kind of jump because they're just like, y'all can't hang with us. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
This next play is a good. Awesome. This next play is a good example of what I was talking about. How like he's not a route runner, so like it's not anything about his route running ability necessarily, but his quarterback. I mean, dude, it looked like he was playing like backyard catch here. The way he just lobbed this up. They were playing against Rice, to be fair. So again, you got to take that level of competition into account. But look at the speed that he brings to that position, because that's what's noticeable here. You can watch Quinn Ewers. I mean, he literally just like lobs this thing wide open again, busting the seams. That's where he can get it. But you see there's two guys beside him, two guys, one on each side. And then there's two players in the back that should technically have the angle on him. Watch his speed just equalize it. Bad angle by the safety. But I mean, he's housed. He's gone. That's a dynamic, man. You see it from the other angle here. He just gets an open release. Open release. Ewers sees him right off the line. Catch right around the 30-yard line. And he's toast, man. I like it. I'm not mad at it. I think that he's got a lot of work to do as a blocker. And we can say that that's not necessary for him because he's coming in as a pass-catching player, and there's no need to have a blocker when you have Tommy Tremble and Ian Thomas. I understand all of that. But Dave Canales also spoke about having a Swiss Army knife and adding that to the tight end room. Jatavion Sanders is not a Swiss Army knife. you can use him in different alignments, but he does not excel at all those different alignments, and he has limitations from just about every single one of them. So it is going to take some scheming, I think, to really get his feet underneath him and get him rolling the way that fans, I think, are anticipating him going. I would temper expectations just a little bit for Jatavian Sanders, especially in year one.
Yeah, any tight end year one. Like Sam Laporta, like Kincaid, they were like, oh, you guys are just good year one. But in general, tight ends, it's such a difficult position to play because a lot of blocking depends on you, a lot of routes depend on you, a lot of timing depends on you. So I definitely temper expectations for Sanders.
Pick 5, we had Cho Smith-Wade out of Washington State. Pick 146 in round 5. A lot of people are going to try to pigeonhole him as a nickel, and that's because of his size. 5'9", 184 pounds, not terrific length. But the problem here, he played almost exclusively on the boundary at Washington State. I mean, I think that he had less than 20 snaps. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure in my research that's what I came up with when I was doing this for the draft. It was like 400 snaps on the boundary to 20 inside in the slot. He is not a natural nickel. I think that he can play it, but also competition in the nickel. Troy Hill. I understand that Troy Hill maybe isn't in the future plans, but if you're drafting Cho Smith-Wade to be a future nickel, I'd love to hear what the plan is with Deshaun Jameson and with Jamie Robinson as well. Jamie possibly projects a little bit more as a safety, but where does he fit in that realm too, right? Now, look, I get it. That's the previous regime, and he was a 5th-round pick. There's not a lot of capital that you have to worry about there. But Cho is a 5th-round pick too. So if we're just going to kick all these guys down the line and be like, no one's worried about that, no one's expecting production, at some point, man, you got to be looking to bring in impact players, right? I do think he can make an impact in special teams again. So maybe there's an emphasis in building that unit. Tabor had that unit playing really well last year. Maybe they want to just continue on that because it's a 3-phase game, NFL football is. So they want offense, defense, and special teams. Maybe they are just really strengthening that unit immediately with some developmental upside for these guys to play in their respective sides later. Did you have any initial thoughts on Cho Smith-Wade?
I mean,
not much.
No, Cam Hart was still on somebody was still on the board that I really liked. And I was just
Cam Hart was there. TJ Tampa, I believe, was still there.
No, Tampa went like
Kalen Carson was still on the board from Wake Forest, and we had the local 30 visit with him. Mo Kamara was on the board, and Mo Kamara went to pick after, and that's who I wanted.
Doesn't matter. I'm an idiot. So
So
I mean, Everett always has a good defense. He kind of got guys that he's like, bye, Peterson, get out of here, down to Josh. So I kind of the guys that he brought in, Troy Hill. Troy Hill played really well within the system. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna trust him. I mean, he brought in a 4th-round rookie to play opposite of Surtain and ended up being one of the best pass defense. No fly zone was back. Right. So he gets good production, and I want to see him with his guys because he just got the latter regime guys. I want to see him with his guys, see what he builds because immediately he got rid of what's his name, one of the Chiefs that we like, Keith Taylor. So he's getting his people in, and I want to see what that looks like. So I'm just gonna be like, meh, we'll see. It's 5th round, meh, we'll see.
I think it's
like
also
better, but
I think it's also a really big vote of confidence for Dane Jackson and DiCaprio Bootle, because I think that when you come out of this draft without obviously addressing the boundary corner opposite side of JC Horn, just in case JC gets hurt, I don't know if that's a likelihood or not, but I heard that it has happened in the past. If Dane has to move over and man that cornerback 1, that's already its own can of worms. But then if you have DiCaprio Bootle as your cornerback 2, they have subtly told us here that they're extremely comfortable with that idea and that notion that could end up being the case. DiCaprio didn't play terrible. Young Basketball Diaries didn't play terrible last year when he was given his opportunities. It's just a very interesting thing to pass up on a talent like Kalen Carson, who has said that he, models his game after JC and has the size, has the speed. Now he came with his own injury risks. But the thing about Cho too, he's not afraid to mix it up. He's a small dude, but he will play really aggressively in run support. And they put an emphasis on that, man. So maybe they look at it and they say, look, we do all these exotic fronts where we have different coverages on the back end. Maybe Cho gets in there every now and then and is just kind of like this fly around by the seat of his pants and hair on fire type of player, man. And if that's the case, dude, then yeah, let's find out about him, man. I'm open to it. It's a 5th round pick, so I don't have high anticipation for him one way or another. And if they like him, I'm going to try to trust that.
Yeah. That's what I said. Secondary, I'm always going to go to Evero. Also, something I want to just bring up.
Yeah.
Go, if you're just bored, go Google Seahawks transaction history.
Well, Google that after the episode. Don't push our listeners away, Alex.
They are going to be tinkering and tinkering and tinkering. They ain't done. So there's still moves that can be made, especially with what we can push down for our cap
Stephon Gilmore.
I think he's coming. I mean, people talk. Listen, you got to have a sizable person when the horn goes down. We got a lot of small guys. Let's go on to Crumuddy, but just everybody needs to know that this isn't the end of the offseason. If we're gonna keep tinkering.
Yep. Jaden Crumuddy. I want to give a shout out to Kevin Avery, Country Kev from the 4-Man Rush, when I was on with the Panthers on Tap fellas for their annual mock draft right before the draft. This is a player that Kev brought up as a potential target in rounds 6 and 7 and had said that he had some appeal to him. I haven't done extensive work on Jaden. I have some film on him that I will be watching here in the next coming days. I love to do the post-draft film because then you can actually see, like, these players, you're not just projecting how they could fit in the NFL. You're projecting how they could fit for your team and in that defensive system. I don't think that Jaden is a true zero technique or a nose tackle. And that's where I felt like maybe the Panthers could have invested a really late round pick. Was on a guy I was very high on, Evan Anderson out of Florida Atlantic. I thought that maybe that was a guy that even as an undrafted free agent we could have targeted. Now, we did bring in a nose tackle as an undrafted free agent. His name was Popo. I can't remember exactly where he's from. Maybe Auburn.
Popo
Digio. That's right. Yeah, that's one of the Santa Claus names. Don't fuck with me on Christmas trivia, man. I am. That is my lane, buddy. No, Jaden, I don't know a whole lot about him, but watching some of his clips early because I have not gotten into his film. He's got a good get off on the line of scrimmage. He's got a little bit of pass rushing ability from like the vertical plane. He can get after it from that interior alignment. I would need to see more before I come to a full opinion on him. So I don't want to sit here and talk about a bunch of things that I'm not knowledgeable about. I do think that picking up somebody to add some depth and bulk to that defensive line is something that I am okay with. Adequate length, not terrific length. But you know what? For a developmental player, 6th round, you could have done worse than grab a SEC defensive lineman, right?
Yeah. Oh, so this is a story. I'm dumb. Like I can't do this. I know numbers. I know comps. I find interesting things. Aaron Donald was going into his 5th year. This and Evero's. He's not defensive coordinator, but he's safeties coach or some high up defensive coach. Aaron Donald is going into his 5th year. He just got extended, and they signed this guy Sebastian Joseph Day.
Yep,
literally identical tape. Like they look exactly alike. They run the same 40. They have the same height, same weight. The same short arms. The same little draft profile. His Aaron Donald's breakout was in 2018 when they drafted Sebastian Day. He had 20.5 sacks. So it kind of, if A equals B and B equals C, which probably is not the case, but I'm just something that's interesting. We've had to use Brown in the worst ways. We've had to be our run stopper. He's had to do dirty work. In Auburn, he was a freaking insane interior pass rusher. He was awesome. If we can find a way to get complementary pieces around him to allow him to do that, man, that's what I'm looking for. I don't need someone to be the savior. I need someone to let our great player be great. So I'm hoping that this is the idea behind this. Also, that guy went 195th, and I think Cromartie went 200. Is that right?
Yep. Round 6, pick 200. Yeah. So again, I feel the same exact way, man. I would have preferred this to be a nose tackle if you're going to bolster that defensive line, because I think a nose tackle does more of what you're saying there. We already have Ashawn Robinson, who's not going to play the 0, right, or a 0 or the 1. He's a 5 or a 3 tech. But if you wanted to bring in a guy to occupy double blockers, even if it's just, this is why I thought like 6th or 7th or undrafted free agent made a lot of sense for a nose, because I know that we don't play that 3-4 base very often. So I know that nose tackle isn't going to play, but maybe 15% of snaps. You don't need to invest a high pick in that. Now, look, if Devondre Sweat was staring you in the face on round 4 or 5, go for it. He didn't last that long. He was a round 2 pick. But if you could have gotten
so
one
early.
of those, yeah, it was early, man. But you know what? The talent is there for that kid. He's just got to figure out everything else and conditioning and things. But if you had a chance, I don't know enough about Jaden to say that he's not going to be able to provide some of that. I just thought that if you had a big space eater that could play on those situational downs, that might have been worth that late round investment. Last pick. Now, this is a pick that a lot of people are actually very excited about. Michael Barrett, the inside linebacker from Michigan. I'll give you just a couple of touching points about why I have trepidation about him at the next level. But then I want to hear your opinion, because I know that you actually have some serious optimism when it comes to this kid. For me, he's an older prospect. I believe he's 25 years old. He played 6 years of college. Not overly fast, not overly athletic. He is instinctual. He shows really good instincts of the position. He is a leader. He's a team leader. We drafted 3 team captains in these drafts too. So there is an emphasis on that. And I like that, man. When you talk about building a culture, get guys that know how to rally a whole team and that have the trust of their team in that locker room. That's great team building. He is undersized severely. 5'11". Now he's stout, 233 pounds, but that 5'11", the length matches. He's got shorter arms. He misses tackles because of that, but instinctually he ends up in better position to make tackles than what I saw Trevin Wallace. Now, Michael Barrett, I didn't do individual study on, but I did a lot of study on Junior Colson, and Michael Barrett played alongside him. And I'm going to tell you, man, I noticed Michael Barrett a lot on film without actually studying him individually. So tell me why you're excited about Michael Barrett.
You need the yin to the yang. Like I said, we had those Memphis Grizzlies, right? They're just gonna like swag, we got this. But you need your I'm just doing basketball analogies because I got a Knicks game right behind this. You need your PJ Tuckers. You need your what's the dude that I don't know why I can't think of it right now. The guy that's at ESPN that won a championship with the Celtics. Kendrick Perkins. Like you need the guys that keep everybody.
And that was Steven Adams for the Memphis Grizzlies.
Right. You need just that guy that's your rock. You need the rock that, when things go bad, I got this, because I've been thinking about all of this entire time while you guys have been idiots, kind of thing. We need you guys to be idiots because we need to be loose, and you guys are playmakers and you guys are awesome. But we need those rock guys, those Sam Franklins, those especially the special teamers. Those I feel like are always the rock guys. Yeah. And if nothing else, you need pros. And if that guy just lasts until the last day of cuts and he gets cut, he still helps out. Like it's going to be helpful having guys like that that are there every single day that kind of make the younger guys adults. Yeah. And as far as right now, you got picked in the first round, you got picked in the second round. I got this, hell yeah. I know how to win games. So I love having one of those in every draft. So I like that we got this kind of guy. Because I think he's going to be a bubble guy. He probably won't make the team, in my opinion, unless he just excels or somebody gets hurt. But you know what, though, man? When you're picking in 6 and 7 rounds, right? You're looking for guys that can also provide that special teams. And a lot of times that's your tight ends, that's your linebackers, and that's your secondary, right? This dude can do that. But he also, I think that his grit and his play style and his tenacity and his kind of like overcompensation for the physical limitations, I think that can bring out the best of the competition for that entire room. Because if he's busting his ass in practice and he's giving it his all because he wants to make that roster, first of all, but he also wants to play.
This dude wants some time on that field, man. He wants to show some stuff. If he is playing that hard and he's playing with that fire in practice, he's going to force the other guys to do it, or else they're going to lose their damn jobs. So I like that competition. I like the spirit. If he comes in and he does that, there are a lot worse flyers that you can take in the 7th round than a defensive player from a Jim Harbaugh coached football team. That is the one thing that I will always say about that. You cannot find a better dart throw than somebody who comes from that type of coaching and that type of discipline when you're coming into the NFL. So I don't know that I'm anticipating anything at all from this kid outside of fire and competition. And if that's all he brings, man, look, at least at the bare minimum, Claude and Sherrillis and Chandler Wooten, you guys should be on notice, because this dude is 100% coming for that depth position at a linebacker, if not trying to prove that Trevin Wallace maybe wasn't the linebacker to take in the 3rd round. I mean, sometimes these guys have those internal chip on their shoulders when they're just like, look, dude, I know that we're teammates now, but man, I played in the Big Ten. I won national championships. I played against the best teams. Like, I had production and I played for 6 years. You know what I'm saying? So maybe there is a little bit of that personal integrity.
You can't say nothing to me. You ain't won nothing.
That's it.
Until the Panthers win the Super Bowl and I'm not on that team, I got you. That's
my thought too.
He reminds me of, I said this on Twitter, he reminds me of Dakota Allen, who the Rams drafted, literally same makeup. Yeah. I think he was the guy from Last Chance U or something. I can't remember his specific story. But he was a special teamer 4 years for the Rams. I mean, that's all he lasted. He didn't get another contract. And he started 3 games at linebacker in 4 years. And he just was that lunch pail guy. He just did his job and he made the roster for 4 years in a row. And I think that's what this guy's upside is.
That's at least what he brings to the table, right? We'll see what happens once he gets there, but like, that's what he brings with him. Hey, look,
if nothing else, he's gonna be a pro. Like, he's gonna be the guy. He's gonna be the rookie of all the rookies, where he's like, oh, I don't want to do the singing in the song. It's like, dude,
he's an older player that comes in as a rookie, but everyone calls him Unc. You know what I mean? Like, he comes in with a little bit of gray in the beard. And look, I'm not knocking him, man. I'm salt and peppered to the brim here, dude. I look like I'm transitioning into Santa Claus. That's why kids love me so much.
Anybody that makes fun of a professional athlete, when I'm literally sitting on my couch right now.
No shit. Right.
Talking like
I was about to crack my 3rd beer in the same podcast that we're doing. Oh, hold on. That was another 3rd one. Service. All right. So look, either way, I want to bring this thing up again because I really enjoyed it. I appreciate everyone hopping in our DeLorean and going back to the future of the Carolina Panthers. There's some real reason, I think, to be excited about this team, man. I really think that we did a solid job. I'm a little bit nervous about how many players can have an impact early, because I think that this team needed an infusion of impact players. But I think the combination of free agency moves with the draft picks, with the different offensive approach and scheme, and Bryce Young playing in an entirely different scenario, I think gives me enough optimism to see the vision of what they're trying to do. Even if I don't agree with every single piece, I can understand the process of what they've done here.
Correct. Yeah. They have a plan. It's so nice to see a plan and not just trying to put Band-Aids on little things. Yeah. Even I think they had planned too much because they were too dedicated to how they wanted to build this.
Yeah.
At least they had a plan. Because last year was not.
But you make a good point about that, about having too firm of a plan, possibly. Because I would have liked to have seen that when Junior Colson and Edgerrin Cooper were off the board there, maybe you pivot away from linebacker at 72, and maybe you look in the range of like a Tanner Bortolini for center. I would have really liked, and I also thought that Bo Limmer lingered for a very long time, that I thought you could have took him, whether it was at 101 or even I think he was right around that 156 where you could have moved up and got him. I really would have liked to have seen them address something with center, because now they bring in the undrafted free agent kid out of Oklahoma, Andrew Rame. And look, he's not like a bad prospect necessarily, but he's an undrafted free agent. There is no way that you go into this year feeling like Austin Corbett and Brady Christensen are good enough that you can bet on. They're wild cards. They have not played meaningful snaps at center ever in their careers. And those are our 1 and 2 on the depth chart. Maybe they succeed, dude, and I vehemently hope that they do.
You're almost there.
I'm not the guy to gamble on that.
You're almost there.
Well, take me the rest of the way, Alex. God damn it.
Seahawks, center means so. Think about Ungers of the world. They've drafted centers in the top 2 rounds.
Right.
Centers matter, right?
Yeah.
And they were so stubborn because you were there, right? Yeah, I would have rather seen them go after this person or this person that like lasted really long. Why were they so stubborn not to do that? I don't think that if I'm stupid and I'm like, oh, this guy played 4 games last year, he never played center before, and that's gonna be your starting center. Like, I've always really like
valued the center position.
Exactly. Right? Like Ryan Jensen, it was like the world ended when he retired right before Canales started in Tampa Bay. Connor Williams is still out there.
Yeah.
And he's off of ACL. He's going to be real cheap. And if we're playing for 2 years from now,
I just worry so much about bringing in that to back up another dude who's coming off ACL and MCL.
Sure, I'm not saying that that's the guy, but I'm saying
I know what you're saying.
It's setting up for. I think it's a move at center is definitely coming, and I think a move, and I think I think they're kind of like. I honestly don't think they really want Gilmore, because I don't really think they care as much about this year and bringing in vet players.
Sure,
like Clowney they like because I think that he can add value for quite some time, and that's something that is desperately needed going forward because they don't just grow on trees. Yeah, but I think that center is a very, very important position, and just being like, we don't have anyone on the roster that's ever played it. I
agree. Go. I do think you're right. I think that they do something to try to, in one way or another, though, even if it's rain, even as a barometer in camps and practices and stuff like that, you'll see a guy who has a 4-year career playing center against Austin Corbett and Brady Christensen taking their snaps at the NFL level to find out, are they at an adequate level right now? Or maybe they make that subsequent move after those OTAs and those voluntaries and stuff like that.
I think there's a guy from Seattle that's like a free agent.
Is there?
At least has some sort of he took the place of Mays. I don't remember his name. But there's a couple of, no matter what, serviceable centers still out there that can at least add depth at the position. So I think we at least add depth. But it just seems when people talk, listen, man, I'm going to raise that red flag. No,
it's tough to envision them coming into
two knee problems, and you've never played center before, and that's just like, no, we're good, no competition.
And we just saw, man, we took Bradley Bozeman, one of the hearts of the team, and just said, hey, the performance simply wasn't good enough, and now all of a sudden you're going into it with these guys. Like, if you knew the emphasis of that position, man, and this is your plan, it does seem like they have something else up their sleeves. But
Evan Brown's the guy we're thinking of. He's a free agent.
Evan Brown, got you. Yeah. That's always a good place to pick up for the next episode. But
also, watch out for Thielen being on the move. Man, rookie years, Hurts had Alshon Jeffrey for a year. Peace out. Kyler Murray, Larry Fitzgerald. Peace out. Like you get these vets for a year, and they're like, we're going young. 35-year-old Adam Thielen ain't going to help you next year, which we really are going to need him.
I mean, I can't say that I'm mad at the teaser that you threw out here to keep listening to us and Alex's maniacal
doing.
Alex's crazy conjured up theories about what's happening. Just for a little bit of context, Alex is at home
10% confident in Malik Washington, who didn't come close to being a Panther.
I know, man. There were so many late round guys that I was like, just take them. God damn it, take them. But you know what? That's also the overly optimistic draft analyst in me that sits there and spends hours watching film of Kamani Vidal so that I have this personal affinity to him. And I'm like, just take him. Somebody make me look good.
Dude.
But I do truly believe in him, man. And I think that he fell in a good situation. But I'm not going to go on a tangent about another team right now. We're hour and 40 in. Look, hey, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. It was nice to do this tonight, just you and me too, man. Like, we've had guests on our entire duration, but I thought that it was important for this one to give our perspectives and our opinions on this draft class. I look forward to bringing in more guests so that we can get their opinions on this, but I really wanted to get me and you on record talking about how we feel about this, because this is how we started, man. And this is how they're starting their thing. Me and you, our opinions against the world. Dan Morgan, Dave Canales, their opinions against the world. So with that
who
thought
am
in
I? Am I
mind,
Canales or am I Morgan?
oh, you're Canales for sure, dude. Like
Okay.
you're 100% Dave Canales. Look, if one of us is a former crazed inside linebacker and one of us is a very sweet fella now, reformed from his crazy time before, but that's definitely the way that this
I think
works.
it'd be more like a Tillis. I'm probably more of a Tillis, and you're the Morgan.
Yeah, there you go. The big brain.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That works too.
No, it's not a big brain. It's just like a
No, it's a big brain, dude. Have you seen his forehead? There's at least a brain and a half in there.
I don't know. I say some pretty stupid stuff.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. And stay tuned, because we will be back for another episode of the Bo Body Show. But until then, enjoy the music.